proceed with the uh, discussion of that point.
Ancyent Marinere.
The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which is written by S.T. Coleridge, or we call it Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Right? Is my
Yes.
voice audible to you clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, obviously, as I told you, it's a lengthy narrative points. When we talk about
Yeah,
lengthy narrative point means what? Long story point that filled with
it is.
what? Vivid imagery, right? That's something called as a clear images, deep symbolism, and moral themes, right? So that's what you would find out. And if I talk about that, this poem has the 2 to 3 parts, right? So, and part
Yes, sir.
yes. So let's go to the part one. So the part one is indicating about what? A kind of an argument that you find out in the poem. What is that? The poem's argument uh, serves as nothing but the uh, idea of the story, right? And the argument introduces us to what? The story of a ship, right? That after crossing the equator, do you understand the meaning of equator?
Yes, sir.
Equator. So, after crossing the equator, it is driven by storms to the icy waters. It is driven by storms. Storms to the what? Means storms to the
I see what.
icy waters near the South Pole, right? So, and when it uh, went to the South Pole, strange events occur. What are the strange events occur? Or why the strange events occur? As the ship makes its way back to warmer regions. So the ship makes it to way back to the warmer regions. And the ancient mariner returns to his homeland to tell his tale. To tell his tale means that called as a to tell his story. Got the point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, let's go for the first stanza. The first stanza begins with what actually? Now, it is an ancient mariner, and stoppeth. He stoppeth one of three by thy long grey beard and glittering eye. Now, wherefore stopped or stoppest thou me? Now, it's a very clear idea that you find out in these 4 lines, right? Stanza. So the poem begins with what? An ancient mariner who stops a man on his way to a where? On his way to a wedding, right? So, and this man is referred to as the what? Wedding guest, isn't it? So the wedding guest is
Yes.
surprised and slightly, annoyed. So annoyed by the what? Annoyed by the mariner's interruption. And that's what it is stated. It is an ancient mariner and he stopped one of the three wedding man, right? Or sorry, wedding guest, right? So by your long grey beard and glittering eye, now wherefore stoppest thou me? It is clearly indicating that the mariner when stopped the wedding guest, so the wedding guest is surprised and slightly getting anger by the mariner's interruption, and especially since he has urgent matters to attend, since he has urgent matters to attend to the attend to at the wedding, so that's why he got annoyed. Then it is stated in the next stanza, the bridegroom's doors are opened wide. The bridegroom's doors are opened wide, and I am next of kin. The quest are met, the feast is set. Must hear the merry tune. Now, in that case, the bridegroom's doors are opened wide. So the wedding guest did what? The wedding guest protest. and explaining to whom? Explaining to the ancient mariner that he is a close relative of the bridegroom, right? And must attend the festivities. So
Okay.
he points out the lively sounds coming from the wedding celebration, right? Who points out? So the wedding guest points out the
The
what?
wedding gift.
Lively sounds coming out from the wedding celebration and emphasizing or describing his urgency. That's what it is stated. The guests are met, the feast is set, must hear the merry din. Right. So in that case, it is clearly stating that the wedding guest emphasized and also Mensa points out that where he was going and how urgent it is. Now, the next stanza stated that he holds him with his skinny hands. Right. He holds him with his skinny hand. There was a ship, quoth he. Hold up and hand me grey-beard loon. Eftsoon his and drop he. So he holds him with his skinny hand. Who holds whom? So the mariner holds the wedding
Mariner
guest.
holds the
Wedding guest.
wedding gift.
So with his skinny hand and begins his story. Right. How do you know that begins his story? There was a ship. It is the line begins. He quoted. So begins his story with the words that there was a ship. The wedding guest calling him. The wedding guest call him what? Now hold up and hand me grey bear loon. So calling him what? A grey bear loon. And angrily demands to be released his hand. Surprisingly, the mariner lets go of his hand. So soon means what? Now immediately his hand dropped he. So he means left or he allowed his hands to set free. Right? Now, next stanza stated that he holds him with his glittering eye. The wedding guest stood still and listens like a 3-year child. The mariner has his will. Now, in that case, you can say that it is a kind of a means miracle that what the mariners left his hand free, but with his eyes he caught him, right? So that is what it is stated. The mariner's glittering eye mesmerizes the wedding guest, right? Who becomes captivated. Captivated means what? It seems like what he become captured by the mariner's presence. So, as if spellbound, like surprise, he listens intently. Who listens to whom? So, the wedding guest listens to the mariner like a young child that would tell a story or that would listen to a story, right? The mariner begins, right? The mariner has his will. It means the mariner begins to tell the story. So, the next time just stated
The mariner hat.
Hath is called as Hath is a old English. Hath means called as Haj, H-A-S, Haj or have. The mariner has his will. So has his will means what? The mariner complete control over the wedding guest, isn't it? So the wedding guest sat on a stone. He cannot choose but hear. The wedding guest sat on a stone, so he cannot choose but hear. And thus spake on that ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner. So the poet here stated that the wedding guest sits on a stone and unable to stop the urge to listen. Urge means request to listen. So he cannot choose but hear, right? He unable to protest or stop it, right? So, but he means listens to the story of his urging, right? The mariner continues his story and thus spake on that ancient man. Spake means called as a spoke, right? Spoke what? Spoke story. So the mariner continues his story. His bright-eyed means what? Means his shining eyes, demeanor captivating his audience. So you would find out that means the ancient mariner with his eyes So hold the wedding guest, and this appears like what? The wedding guest was caught or called as a like a prison, like a, you can say that, what we can say, like a baby, like a kid, right? He listens to the story of whom? Listens to the story of that boy, of that man, right? So it is also stated that
Like a kid means, sir, like a kid means the wedding guest is quietly listening to the story, or means what does it mean? That
yeah,
is like a kid.
like a kid, you can say like a young child who listens to a story. Right. And it is not only in comparing that what the wedding guest with a child, young child, the wedding guest also compared with the what? Captivating audience, right? Like the actor or actress or like the movie, or like the speech that captivate or called as a make the audience prison. So likewise, the wedding guest sat on a stone. The wedding guest cannot choose but listen, right? He cannot stop, he listens, and therefore, the ancient mariner, means you can say, continues his story, and the wedding guest means listen to the listen to the story of that ancient mariner, like a means captivating audience, right? Now, next is it is indicated the ship was cheered, the harbor cleared. The ship was cheered, the harbor cleared. Merrily did we drop below the kirk, below the hill, below the lighthouse top. Now, what did it say? The ship was cheered. It means the mariner begins his story of his journey, right? What kind of a journey? A sea journey, sea voyage. So he said that the crew sets up cheerfully. So the crew means what? That called as a number of means people who aboard the ship, right? So here what happened? The crew sets up means cheerfully from the harbor, right? Passing familiar landmarks. What are the landmarks that they find out? They find out nothing but you can say Kirk, Kirk. What do you mean by Kirk? Kirk is called as a church,
Church.
Church. So Kirk, below the hill, right? Even means a church, a hill, and below the lighthouse top means and a lighthouse also, right? Church, hill, and lighthouse. So, what are they? Now, they are nothing but the part of its story, or part of its story, or you can say setting, right? So, the sun came up upon the left. The sun came up upon the left. Out of the sea came he, and he shone bright, and on the right went down into the sea. Now, what do we find out here? It is clearly stated about what? Clearly stated about that the mariner describes how the sun rose to the left, because the sun came up upon the left. When we say that the sun came up upon the left, it means called as a morning to afternoon. It turns afternoon. And set to their right. Set to their right means it turns evening and darkness, suggesting that what? The ship is selling where? Now southward, right? So the ship is selling towards
Southward.
southward, right? So it is also
Means,
said,
sir, they instead of stating the south, they have means find a interesting way to say the direction they are moving with.
yes. So it is clearly stating that the sun came up upon the left, and out of the sea came he, right? And he shone bright, and on the right went down into the sea, right? So in that case, next is called as a higher and higher every day, higher and higher every day, till over the mast at noon, higher and higher every day. So till over the mast at noon, the wedding guest here bit his breast, for he heard the loud bassoon. Right. Now you can find out that in this particular stanza, the mariner described the journey. The wedding guest becomes distracted. How the wedding guest becomes distracted? Now, higher and higher every day. So means it is indicating that what mariner described the journey, that how they are going. right? And one day after 2 day, like that. So till over the must at noon. So and how it morning to turns noon, afternoon. So and the sun is means above the must. Must is called as a pole. So in that case, as the mariner describes the journey, the wedding guest becomes distracted. So the wedding guest here beat his breast. Beat his breast means what? That called as a turning impatience, right? Impatient. The wedding guest become distracted by the sounds of what? The sounds of the wedding, right? For he heard the loud bassoon. So
Okay.
it's called as the sounds of the wedding, such as the loud bassoon, right? So he is a turn between the festive atmosphere he is missing and the story unfolding before him. So where the wedding guest is, the wedding guest is in between the festive atmosphere and the unfold story, right? So therefore, the bride has passed into the hell, red as a roach is she, nodding their heads before her goes, the merry minstrels. Right. Now, if you see that, the poem briefly shifts, briefly means what? That quickly means shifts back to the wedding scene. So now you find out the ancient man was telling the story and we see the picture or imagery that what how the story goes on. But at the same time, the poet again takes the then situation and pointed that what now or the poet means takes the poem briefly shifts back to the wedding scene where we find out the scene of that wedding is what now the bride radiant and beautiful. So where the bride radiant and beautiful enters the hall, right? Because it is stated, no, the bride has passed into the hall, red as a rose is she. So it is stated the bride is nothing but radiant and beautiful. So she enters the hall, followed by musicians, right? No, followed by musicians playing lively music. And this moment highlights the contrast between the joyous wedding and the mariner's hunting story. So hunting story means how the mariner means that called as a move into a kind of a means unknown unfamiliar sea, right? So that is what it is stated, nodding their heads before her goats, the merry minstrels, right? So that's indicating that the moment highlights the contrast between the joyous wedding and the mariner's hunting story. The wedding guest, he beat his breast, yet he cannot choose but hear. And therefore,
Here it is given that nodding their heads before her goes. Who is nodding here? The musicians.
so what do you think that red as a rose she is she, nodding their heads before her goes. So who goes here?
Bride.
The bride. Now who is nodding their heads?
I think musicians.
So because they were doing what? They were playing lively music, isn't it?
Yes, they were.
They were. So what does it say? Means it takes you to the then situation where we can find out the bride that appears radiant and beautiful. So who enters the hall, right? So and followed by whom? Musicians playing lively music. So in that case, you can say these musicians while playing their lively music. So obviously they move their head here and there, right? So, and at the same time, we can also find out the moment highlights what the contrast between the joyous wedding and the mariner's hunting story. So that is why nodding their heads is indicating nothing but the musicians who do their job, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, next stage called as the wedding guest, he beat his breast. The wedding guest, he beat his breast. It's a too hot actually. Okay. Now, what do
Beating
you?
breast is like
Uh,
not that good way to protest.
sorry.
Sir, beating chest is not that much good way to protest in front of anyone. Like, I don't want to hear the story, then I start. I don't want to hear the story.
Okay. Okay. So, what do we find out here? Actually, if you look into this particular stanza where it is stated, the bride has placed into the hall, red as a rose is she, nodding their heads before her goes, the merry minstrels. So, we understand the bride enters the hall, right? We are followed by a musician playing lively, right? So, and if you look at the nodding their heads, right? Before her goes the merry minstrels. So this suggests a kind of a rhythmic or respectful motion or movement, perhaps in time with the music, as if the heads of the people are, bowing or moving gently, right? So bowing or moving gently. So this action could also indicating or symbolizing a gesture of what? Approval or respect, you can say. So before her goes, this indicates that the group of people or performers is moving in front of a in front of a woman, isn't it? As it referred to her, referred to whom? Referred to as her. It implies that she is important, possibly leading the procession or observing it. Am I clear?
Yes, sir.
So, and when we talk about the last where it is stated the merry minstrelsy. So the word minstrelsy refers to what? Refers to a group of minstrels, right? So who are the minstrels? Now, minstrels were medieval entertainers or musicians. Minstrels were medieval period entertainers or musicians, right? So, and if you look into that, the merry minstrelsy, so merry adds a sense of what? Merry adds a sense of joy and celebration to their performance. So the phrase describes nothing but a group of joyful musicians or performers, and we talk about nothing but means here the musicians who nod their head because they means follow the bride, right? Now, after that, what happened? Means the wedding guest he beat his breast, yet he cannot judge but hear, and therefore spake on that ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner, right? So, you can say that the wedding guest he beat his breast. So despite the pull of the wedding, despite the pull of the wedding guest remains captivated because it is stated no, yet he cannot choose but hear, right? So the wedding guest means did not have any option. So he remained captivated, or means you can say that captured by the mariner's story, and he unable to leave. So the mariner continues his story, the bright-eyed mariner. So, and now the storm blast came, and he was tyrannous and strong. He struck with his overtaking wings and chased us south along. Now the mariner describes what? Describes a sudden and a violent. It is stated no, now the storm blast. Why it is written in a capital letter? It is written in the capital letter to point out that what? Now it is very important. It is very important phrase. And the phrase stated that there is a negative situation came out. What is it? Now the mariner describes a sudden and a violent storm or storm blast that drives the ship or that takes the ship towards south, right? The stern is a personified. The stern is a personified as having what? Tyrannous, right? Tyrannous wings. And that emphasizes its power and ferocity. Ferocity means cruelty, right? With the sloping mast and the deeping prow, right? With the sloping mast and the deeping prow, as who pursued with yell and a blow, still treads the shadow of his foe and forward bends his head. The ship drove fast, the ship drove fast, loud roared the blast, and southward we fled, right? So the poet here stated that what? Means with sloping mast and dipping flow. It means the term is continuous. The term is continuous. Continuously doing what? Now pushing the ships south into unknown. Unknown what? Unknown island, right? So it is clearly stated that what the storm is relentless or continuously happening and pushing the ship into unknown with sloping mast and dipping prow as who pursued with yell and blow still treads the shadow of his foe. Foe means enemy. So the poet clearly stated the ship moved towards south side and south side which is unknown and cold waters. So the images convey here what? A sense of desperation, right? As the ship is driven by whom? Ship is driven by the yell and blow of the stern, right? So you can say that what means uh, the poet stated that the ships must are tilted because it is stated with sloping mast and dipping prow. It means the ships must means called as the pole. So the pole that are tilted, right, moved, and the prow means the front part of the ship. Prow is nothing but a front part of the ship that dips into the water, right? So you can understand how cruel the sea would be, right? So, and suggest the ship is nothing but moving quickly and is perhaps being tossed by strong winds or rough sea. So the condition of the rough sea, the condition of the wind is nothing but called as a very terrible and strong and you can say rough, right? As who pursued with yell and blow still treads the shadow of its foe. So this is also indicating a simile, right? Simile comparing the sheep to someone being chased, right? So who is constantly following the shadow of what? Shadow of his enemy, and it implies nothing but urgency and continuous interest or continuous pursuit, right? Then it is stated, and forward bends his head. And forward bends his head means just as someone in interest of leans forward in determination, the sheep is also being driven forward or moving forward. Uh, it seems like what somebody is pushing or forcefully by the wind. So the ship drove fast, loud roared the blast. The ship drove fast, loud roared the blast. So the poet also said that the ship is moving swiftly, moving quickly, and driven by nothing but a strong winds, right? So when you say the blast, it means the wind roaring loudly. Blast is indicating as the wind that is roaring loudly. And the poet also said that what? The southward we fled. It means the ship is continuously moving quickly towards southward and emphasizing a sense of what? Escape. It seems like the ship is escaping or called as being pushed in a specific direction by external forces. So what are those external forces? You can say that winds or cold water, right? And now there come the mist and the snow. And now, so earlier it was a wind, earlier it was a rough sea. Now you would find out that there came both mist and snow. And it grew wondrous cold, and ice must high came floating by, as green as emerald. So the poet stated that the sheep encounters what? The sheep encounters mist. Encounters means meeting with the mist, right? Not only mist, also snow, and also the ship freezing cold as they are driven where? They are driven for further south side, right? The icebergs are described as must high here actually, right? When you say that, and now there came both mist and snow, and it grew wondrous cold, and ice must high. Must high means called as icebergs, right? They came floating by, right? So as green as emeralds. So here it is stated that how the iceberg right, that stood high, and they appear like what? A green emerald. Green emerald means what? Now that arts and eerie and clear images the environment. So as green as emerald, so like the emerald, which is a precious. So the you can say that the icebergs are also appearing like that, right? Next, it is stated, and through the drifts, the snowy cliffs, and through the drifts, the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of nor shapes of men, nor beast we ken. The ice was all between. So here you would find out the ice. Sorry, here you would find out the crew, right? Because it is stated, no, through the drifts, the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, not shapes of men nor beast we ken. The ice was all between. So the poet said, the crew finds themselves in a desolate area. Desolate area means the area which is called as empty of people, right? And icy wasteland with no sign of life. So, and there is to a kind of island which is filled with ice, right? And it is known as a wasteland. So there is no sign of what? No sign of life. So therefore it is called as the dismal sheen. That suggests nothing but a gloomy and a foreboding atmosphere. So what shows gloomy and foreboding atmosphere, and what do you mean by gloomy? So you can say that the dismal scene or called as a means they reach to an unknown, unfamiliar terrain, right? So they felt like nothing but they felt very serious and also sad, right? And thinking about the atmosphere. So the poet also said that the ice was here, the ice was there. The ice was here, the ice was there. The ice was all around. It cracked and it cracked and growled and roared and howled like noises in a sound, right? So you can say that the poet uses nothing but the repetition. The repetition, what? The repetition clearly describes the ship's entrapment in ice. So where the ship is? The ship is uh, falling in a trap, right? So where? Now falling in a trap in icy land. The ice is described as making loud, unsettling noises, creating a sense of what? Claustrophobia and danger. So you can say that what here the poet said means what created the sounds, the hillside or the mountains. How did it create sounds? It cracked, it growled, it roared, it howled. So all such kind of a things indicate that what the ship is entrapped, right, in the ice, and the ice is described as making loud, unsettling noises, creating a sense of what? Claustrophobic and danger. Or at length did cross an albatross. At length or at last did cross an albatross. Through the fog it came, through the fog it came, as if it had been a Christian soul. We held it in God's name. So we welcomed him in the name of God. So the poet stated that there was an albatross, a large seabird that appears through the fog, right? The crew, right, they views it as a good omen. So what views it as a good omen? And what do you mean by good omen? So you can say that they view that the arrival of albatross is nothing but a symbol of goodness or called as a blessing. So almost as if it were a Christian soul. So they consider albatross is nothing but the symbol of Christian soul, and maybe albatross was sent by a God, sent by God, right? So therefore it is called as a, at last it did cross an albatross. So here the albatross reached. So though the fog it came, so it came through the fog.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, are you saying it at length or at last? What are you saying it?
What you understand by at length?
At length, I thought at length means In a far away distance, means at a height or at a far distance, at length.
What at length is what?
At length, I thought was a far away distance, means from a bit far away distance, the albatross crossed.
At length the storm passed and the sky cleared. What do you mean by that?
I don't know, I don't know about at length, but
So
this,
you can use it in two ways. A long time or finally. A long
okay,
time or finally. Right. So it indicates that something took a considerable amount of time or effort before it happened. That is what nothing but a at length means. Right. So when I say that at length did cross an albatross, so you can consider that at length is indicating that finally, right? Or you can say that after a long time.
okay, yeah, understood, sir.
So at length did cross an albatross. Through the fog it came, as if it had been a Christian soul. We held it in God's name. So this clearly indicating that an albatross, a large seabird, right, appears through the fog. The crew, right, views it as a good omen. Good omen means what? A good sign, right? Almost as if it were a Christian soul sent by God. So that is what it clearly stated, right? Then it is stated that it ate the food, it never had eat, and round it flew. The ice did split with a thunder fit. The helmsman entered, or the helmsman steered us through. Right. So what did it say? Right, say nothing but a what? It is clearly stated it ate the food it never had it, and round it flew. So who flew and why flew? And so the ice did split with a thunder fit. The helmsman steered us through. So the poet stated that the albatross, sorry, albatross that seems to bring good fortune, right? So that is what we understood. The albatross means that makes the sense to the crew that what albatross is the good sign and it will definitely bring good fortune. So, and when it came, it eats the food, right? It eats the food offered by the crew, right? It ate the food, it never had it. So it eats the food offered by the crew, and soon after what happened, round and round it flew, and the ice begins to break apart, you can say that. So the ice did split with a thunder fit. So the ice begins to break apart or split with a thunder fit. So allowing the ship to navigate. Navigate means what? To show the direction through the dangerous waters. Now, why we consider that the albatross was the blessing? Now, because of the albatross, or once when the albatross came, so and it took the food or it ate the food that are or were offered by the crew, and after that, what happened? Something miracle occurred. What happened? Now, due to the thunder, what happened? The hill, right? So the hill gets separated, right? Or what kind of a hill? The ice hill, or ice that begins to separate. And finally, what happened? The crew members as well as the ancient mariner, so they got the way through the dangerous waters. So, and a good south wind, and a good sound wit, and a good south wind sprung up behind. Good south wind sprung up behind. It means what? With the ice behind them, a favorable wind helps the ship move northward. So, and a good south wind sprung up behind. It means what? South wind was behind. It means they moved towards the northward. The albatross did follow. The albatross continues to follow the ship, right? And every day for food or play came to the mariner's hollow. So that albatross was not, for the first time, came to that place. So it came after every day, right? So you can say that the albatross continues to follow the ship and becoming a nothing but a constant companion to the crew. Constant companion to the crew means what? Every day for food or play, the albatross came to the mariner's hollow, right? So when we say that hollow, it means called as the albatross came to the ship, right? In mist or cloud, on mast or shroud, in mist or cloud, on mast or shroud, it burst for vespers 9, whilst all the night through fog smoke wild, right? Through fog smoke white, glimmered the white moonshine, glimmered the white moonshine. So the poet said that the albatross, you can say that perches on the ship's mast. That is what it is pointed in mist or cloud. So whether it is a cloudy or filled with the filled with the fog or mist, on mast or shroud. On mast or shroud means on the pole, right? Or the shroud, right? That is generally used for what? Helping the guide the or called as taking the direction of the ship. So on mast or shroud, it perched for Vespers 9. So when we say that Vespers 9 means what? You can say it uh, you can say that stays with the crew or sits on the mast till the 9 o'clock evening. So when we say that Vespers 9, the meaning of Vespers 9 is called as a 9 o'clock evening, right? It sits uh, on the mast or on the shrouds till 9 o'clock in the evening, right? It becomes a familiar. What becomes the familiar? The albatross becomes a familiar and comforting presence in the middle of the fog smoke and the moonlight night. So the poet said that what two things can be found out. One is called as a fog smoke, and the second one is called as a moonlight nights. But between them also we find out another one that is called as a uh, presence of albatross, and that seems like a familiar and comforting presence, right? Now, then after it is stated, God saves thee. God save thee. God saved thee, and you can say that God saved thee, ancient mariner, from the fiends that plague thee thus. Why lookest thou so? With my crossbow, I shot the albatross. Now, here you would find out something surprising occur. Suddenly, what happened? The mariner reveals a shocking twist. Right? Shocking twist to whom? Shocking twist to the wedding guest. And what did he make? So suddenly the mariners reveal a shocking twist. And he said that what? He killed the albatross with his crossbow. And this act, unprovoked and appearing senseless, foreshadows the dire consequences for the mariner and his crew. Right? Now, in that case, if you observe that what means the lines, the lines indicating about what means indicating God save thee, ancient mariner. So this is an expression of sympathy, or you can say concern. So, with the speaker calling upon God's protection for the mariner, it suggests that the mariner is in some form of distress or suffering. So, the mariner was in some form of distress or suffering from the fiends that plague the dust. The speaker believes that what? The speaker believes what? The mariner is tormented by evil spirits, right? When you say that from the fiends, it indicates that means tortured or called as hovered by the evil spirits, which could be metaphorical, or you can say that for guilt, remorseless, and supernatural forces. So you can say that the ancient mariner could feel guilty, could feel seriousness, or could be hovered or called as a possessed by supernatural forces. Supernatural means that the forces which is nothing but called as uh, evil things. So even the word plague, plague, plague implies that these torments are continuously troublesome. So why lookest thou so? Right. The speaker is asking the mariner why he looks so troubled, or you can say why the mariner looks haunted. So further, it implies that something terrible that has affected him. Right. The poet again said that with my crushing bow shot the albatross. So here you would find out the mariner finally admits to having killed the albatross with a crossbow, right? So the albatross was considered a good symbol, good signs by sailors, and its killing become a nothing but a pivotal moment in the poem. So changing the moment in the poem, right? Bringing about what? Bringing about a curse. Bringing about a curse or a series of bad luck for the mariner and its crew. So that's what it is stated. Means God save you, ancient mariner, from the fiats that plague you thus. Right, that plague you thus. Why lookest thou so with my crossbow? I shot the albatross. So suddenly you can say the mariner reveals to the means what wedding guest that what a shocking wish, shocking change, or shocking twist. What did he say? He killed the albatross with his crossbow, and this act, unprovoked or called as and appearing like what senseless, right? And it covers nothing but a dire consequences. It comes with nothing but a very bad consequences for the mariner and his crew, isn't it? Understood the point?
Yes, sir.
So all total, if you talk about this, so the part one of the rhyme of the ancient mariner that sets the stage, that create the stage for the point's central conflict and establishes its atmosphere. So what happens, how happens, when happens, and how does it, the atmosphere. So the mariner's mysterious and tragic story, you can say that, coupled with his inexplicable killing of the albatross and associated with what? That called as a meaningless killing of the albatross that creates a sense of what? Creates a sense of foreboding, right? That drives or that moves the story forward. The albatross death remarks what? The beginning of the mariner's journey into guilt, suffering, and you can say that redemption, right? Redemption is called as somebody who feel and realization that holds in the means next points that when you read, right? Am I clear? Hello.
Yes, sir, small doubt. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, there it is, and the last stanza it is given that God save the ancient mariner from the fiends that plague. Fiends, you said that it is some kind of, it is like the ancient.
Evil spirit.
Yeah, evil spirit. Evil spirit, he was tortured by the evil spirit,
No,
or
evil spirit referring to the what? Guilt, remorse, or supernatural forces. I did not say that evil spirit hovered on him, right? So, sorry, evil spirit
okay,
that,
means
sorry,
that guilt, remorse, all these things were in the form of evil spirit.
evil spirit, supernatural curse, forces also. Let's say that when you did something wrong, right? So it is your mind that tells you to do the wrong, right? It is your mind that tells you to do the wrong, right? So it means your mind is captured by what? It's captured by guilt or remorse or some kind of a stress or maybe some kind of a evil spirit that hold you, right? So, and that is why you means that is why you did the job or you did some kind of a things. And that caused what? That caused nothing but a problem for you. That the word plague is also there, you know. So what does it say? That plague you therefore. That plague D thus means what? Plague means called as a troublesome. That cause. Plague means cause. Cause you what? Cause you troublesome. Got the point?
Yes. Yes, sir. Understood.
So I think part two is also there, no?
Yes, sir. Sir, you know what? A good news.
What?
Our teacher has started and finished this particular chapter named Virtually True.
Good.
He's in quite a hurry, I can see it.
Mm.
Although I can relate this story a lot with the movie Jumanji.
Virtual true. So it's a
Yes,
two
sir. Yes,
that the boy who made an accident, no?
yes, sir. Sebastian Schultz. He met an accident. He was in coma, and his memory was somehow captured inside the computer or the game. We can say the game was stolen. The game was bought by this Michael's father, who is so interested in games. And then Michael plays these games, and everywhere there is a character named Sebastian. Then he rescues Sebastian, and then he also receives a an real letter from Sebastian Schultz, who thanked Michael for saving him. So all these things it is there.
Okay. So I need to close it now. We'll meet in the next class. What happened? Next class we'll go for the part two of it, no?
Yes, sir.